Ever since Boris Johnson got in, I have been explaining to you, my audience, exactly what is going to happen to the Conservative Party. The fact that they are so fractured, not only just along ideological lines, but factional lines. And I said before that Boris Johnson was like this wallpaper that was covering over the massive, foundational cracks in the Tory party that were going to, well, basically tear it apart. And what happened? The second that Boris wallpaper was removed, we had the chaos and the civil war of selecting a new party leader. We saw the chaos and again the continuing civil war of selecting Liz Truss and her downfall, and then we had the sort of maybe what many people said was the final act in this civil war. To which I say, ha. Because we've got this continuation of this civil war continuing now with Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak has no political room to maneuver. He is today delivering a critical, a big speech to address the problems with the NHS. But what's he going to be able to do? Like, what laws or anything is he going to be able to do without upsetting the now myriad of different factions within the Conservative Party? We've already seen what happened when he tried to undo the onshore wind farm ban. The net zero scrutiny group threw an absolute fit and then demanded a coal mine. And guess what? They got a coal mine out of it. So Sunak has no room to maneuver and nowhere to go. But today, we're not talking about our, shall we say, or shall we say the UK Conservative Party or the UK Tory Party. Today, we are going to look at the chaos that has just unfolded in the US with the Republican Party and all their chaos and civil wars that have basically just broken out now, potentially on full view, and how that's going to unfold in certainly tomorrow or in the next couple of days is going to be very interesting, because even though this sort of that Republican civil war is not going to unfold maybe the same way our Conservative Party is going to unfold, there are going to be a lot of parallels and a lot of very similar things probably happen. But this fracturing, this civil war that is ongoing with the US Republicans, is but a taste of what is to come with our own conservative civil war. And as I said just a couple of weeks ago, it is going to be fun on a bun. So if you would like to follow these hilarious antics that are probably about to unfold this year, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you are new. And obviously, please do remember to hit the bell as well, so you get reminded of when we drop a new video, when we go live. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page, the one-off donation button called the Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There's a YouTube thank you button, and of course the Pony Club you can join as well. Where today are the Patreon members and of course the Pony Club members. I will be doing a special video for you today, as I always do every Wednesday. So as always, guys, thank you very much to all the support that you guys show. Even if you do, just hit the like and share button. It helps out massively. So on with this and the chaos that is unfolding. Because oh boy, this could get really interesting. So this comes from the BBC with the title of US House in Chaos after Kevin McCarthy loses the speaker votes. So if you don't know what that is like sort of like the person who is in charge and sets the agenda in the US House. Now, I said I'm not fully versed in sort of US politics or the sort of their inner workings, so I hope I've got that right. But essentially, if you haven't elected a speaker, this also means that any new people who got elected to the House also have not been sworn in yet either. So as of now, because this still hasn't been sorted out, the US House of Representatives is basically in an absolute deadlock. No laws, no bills, no nothing can be done. So we'll get diving into this then. So On a day of high political drama, the Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy, repeatedly, and it was repeatedly, I think he failed 3 times, has failed in his bid to be elected Speaker of the House of US Representatives. The House adjourned without a speaker on Tuesday night, the first time since 1923 when they failed to choose a leader after a first round vote. The new start of a Congress, which was supposed to be a victory lap for the Republican Party as it took control of the power of the lower chamber following November's elections. Instead, McCarthy has now faced a rebellion from within of his own ranks and made history for all the wrong reasons. The California congressman has lost 3 consecutive votes for Speaker so far, and it is unclear with what his path to victory could be when the House returns on Wednesday to try all over again. They will keep on voting until someone wins a majority. And even if Mr. McCarthy finds a way, analysts warn, the turmoil on the floor of the House foreshadows a tumultuous 2 years of moderate and right-wing Republicans at war with each other. And this is what is playing out. And this bear in mind, the chaos that we see in our own Conservative Party is just as chaotic as what is going on the Republicans, and it is the fault of their leadership for not seeing and not punishing these rebellious factions when they've rebelled, because they've only got more and more and more rebellious. You know, it's the famous saying, you know, you give an inch, they take a mile. That is what has been happening. And this has been happening very similar fashions, that the leadership of both the Republicans and sort of our own Tories have just not realized that these factions have been sort of taking a mile and pushing even more. And as a result, especially, you know, our own, you know, Tory party is completely ungovernable. So who knows what this very well could foreshadow, you know, in the US House. So back to it. A Republican Party unable to effectively run the lower chamber of commerce could hamper its ability to carry out some of its core functions, like passing spending bills or raising the debt ceiling. The Republicans have narrowly won control of the House in November, so Mr. McCarthy only had a few votes to spare in his bid to become Speaker. This allowed a group of hardline conservatives, which again, very similar to what happened with Brexit, it was a group of hardline Brexiteers that banded together to really push for this hardcore Brexit, and they got away with it. They weren't punished, they weren't censored in any way whatsoever. This has allowed a group of hardline conservatives to band together to oppose his nomination. The rift was a long time coming, according to Republican observers. Exactly. Why didn't they see this? And you can ask the same question of why didn't the Tories leadership see this? Why didn't they step in and start to do this? But this is going to cause chaos, and eventually this chaos will spread, and they're going to become absolutely ungovernable. And who knows exactly how all this is going to really play out? Who knows? Maybe on Wednesday when they meet, this could all be over. They go in, they vote, bam, it's done. But that doesn't mean that civil war is not going to, shall we say, continue in the background, because already, just as we have in our own Conservative Party, the Republican Party now has the trenches are being dug, and they are ready to start, you know, going over the top at each other in a very, very hardcore way, just as they are dug in our own Tory party, ready to start at each other. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting year for I think politics, both potentially in America and over here in the UK as well. So one observer has said, Kevin McCarthy has not made friends with certain segments of the caucus for a while. He has made a lot of enemies, said one Republican lobbyist, who requested requested anonymity to speak frankly about Tuesday's vote. He said, "There's people who don't like him for political reasons and for personal reasons." And for Mr. McCarthy, entered into negotiation with his detractors who see him as too mainstream and power hungry. Offering concessions to try and win their vote, at one point, he repeatedly agreed to change the House rules to make it easier to oust a sitting speaker, handing his opponents an enormous check on his power. That's insane. To try and secure his seat, he has basically said, yeah, I'm going to make it easier for you to oust me. That's just like saying, well, I'm going to sit on this seat filled with dynamite, and I'm just going to keep lighting matches and throwing them away and just hope that I don't set the explosives off that I'm sitting on. What? The fact that he was negotiating with the Republicans at all made him look very, very weak, to the point of being desperate, the Republican lobbyists said. The facility of that approach has become clear on Tuesday. In 3 consecutive votes, Mr. McCarthy failed to reach the required 218 vote threshold. The Republicans hold 220 seats. A bloc of 19 hard right Republicans has solidified in opposition to him. They oppose Mr. McCarthy on ideological and personal grounds, but also see an opportunity to exploit the Republicans' narrow majority to force further concessions from him. They would never back down, Representative Bob Good, a Virginia Republican, told reporters on Tuesday. In one of the day's most dramatic moments, they even nominated Representative Jim Jordan to challenge him just moments after Mr. Jim Jordan nominated Mr. McCarthy for Speaker. And after Mr. Jordan, who was already a leading figure in the hard right Freedom Caucus, urged Republicans to rally around Mr. McCarthy in a third vote for voting, 20 Republicans voted for Mr. Jordan, again denying victory to Mr. McCarthy. Meanwhile, the Democrats have remained unified behind their party's new leader, Representative Hakeem Jeffries of New York. A few could not help publicly teasing the Republican counterparts about their party's difficult afternoon, with one congressman, Ruben Gallio of Arizona, tweeted that the Democrats were, quote, breaking out the popcorn, and as the evidence included a photo of the snack. Again, they're loving this. They are absolutely loving this, what's going on. And I can't blame them. I really can't blame them. But this really is, this is no fault but their own, because you have had these hard right nutcases, and they want some crazy things. You've got Marjorie Taylor Greene demanding that she be put on like the Ways and Means Committee. There's also them making demands to get rid of the Ethics Committee over there and to free up because there's apparently a group of Republicans, including them, that have been caught up in this Ethics Committee inquiry, especially around January the 6th. It's not for policy grounds to advance anything. All these things are mainly done that they're demanding to try and free themselves and to free their friends, certainly from this. And remember, it wasn't too long ago. In fact, this time last year, the Owen Paterson scandal, I believe, was just about to break. Remember how badly that hurt sort of the Conservatives. So I wonder if the Democrats should maybe take note of that, of what happened to the Conservatives, and maybe start to use that as a bit of a stick to beat the Republicans with. But who knows? So political observers in Washington have begun spinning out various theories of how this could all end. Their predictions to the BBC ranged from the feasible of Mr. McCarthy holds out and wins but walks away seriously weakened, to the entirely possible that he bows out and backs his second in command, Representative Steve Scalise from, I think that's how you say it, from Louisiana. One has suggested, vaguely on the fantasy of 5 Republicans decide to vote for Mr. Jeffries, a Democrat, and deliver him control of the House. That's very unlikely, to be honest. I do not see them doing that, but who knows? Who knows what could happen? As it stands, Mr. McCarthy is essentially a hostage to one side of his party. Wow. Well, I'll tell you what. He's got good company because Rishi Sunak, I would definitely argue, is certainly in hostage to the different factions of his own party, because he's got no room to maneuver either. So he's essentially hostage to one side of his party, said Ruth Block Rubin, a political scientist at the University of Chicago who studies partisanship. Mr. McCarthy has pledged not to make any more concessions, but he may not have a choice. He could try and win over the obstinate lawmakers with a plum committee assignments or new leadership roles. He's got to give the people who are against him something to hang their hat on, said Aaron Cutler, a lobbyist who once worked for the former Congressman Eric Cantor, another politician who was ousted by conservative opposition. The other Republican lobbyist, however, believed that there was, quote, no path to victory at all, period. Members of the House will reconvene for a fourth time on Wednesday, though it is unclear if the stalemate will break. We haven't heard anything new from McCarthy, one of the conservative holdouts, Representative Lauren Boebert of Colorado, told reporters, so I'll guess we'll just keep doing this. This is what happens when you give in to fanatics. And there is a lesson here. There is a lesson for every single conservative party out there, that you may see this populist conservative movement rise. But the thing is, if you start to let these guys in, as the Republicans have done, as our own sort of Tory party has done, eventually they're going to get enough power to start doing crazy things like this. And we've seen in our own UK Parliament the crazy things that they've tried to do and have done, and some cases have gotten away with, like pushing for the hardest core Brexit possible, then putting in Liz Truss and practically crashing the economy. And they haven't taken that as a sign of loss. They've taken that as a sign of there are enemies out there in our own party. So they've had to sort of, rather than, dig the line across from Labour, they've now had to dig a trench behind them because they're paranoid that there are potential enemies who, quote, aren't conservative enough in their own party. And that's just our own party. And this chaos, I think, could only grow. I think it's only going to get worse. But how this ends, I don't know. But this is an absolute projection. And I think many, many moderate sort of conservative politicians over here in the UK should take notice and start to think, is it time that we push back against our own crazies in the party to make sure that we don't end up in a very similar position? Because I'll tell you what, it's far too late to do that because you're already in that position. And if you do that, then you will kickstart a conservative civil war, and it will be hilarious to watch. But yeah, oh my. Oh my, indeed. So how this plays out, I couldn't tell you. Like I say, I'm not a constant observer of UK I'm not a constant observer of US politics, so I don't know how this is fully going to play out, let alone all the different ways this could potentially play out. But yeah, this will be interesting to watch. This will be very, very interesting to watch. Certainly as a potential analog to what is potentially about to happen to our own Conservative Party this year in the UK. So, as always, guys, like I say, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.